books.
Sure.
I think I've asked you for book recommendations twice throughout our friendship. And the first time, neither time I got a straight answer. The first time I think you recommended reading the Iliad or something, and then I reconsidered the friendship.
Should I have said the Odyssey?
It could have been that. I don't know.
Okay. What's wrong with that? That's like...
It's just a really weird...
But it's like the classics. You have to read them.
Yeah, it is.
Don't you want to understand like where our whole culture came from? And
also, it's generally not... I've never heard someone recommend... But I think now I would enjoy it today, I think.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. It's been we read that in, I don't know, middle school or high school, so it's been a long time.
Was it required?
Yeah.
Huh. The other thing you recommended to me is actually on my list today, so...
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So is the topic most influential books on your life?
That is the topic.
I thought about the word influential, and because it's different than something that I might recommend today, something that has affected me greatly in the past. So that's what I wanted to get out of the way. And then maybe we can talk about, with each book that we say, how it was influential on us, whether or not you would recommend it today.
Yeah.
Do you have any caveats?
No, I don't think I do. I think your caveat kind of captured it.
Okay.
Just, yeah. Doesn't mean they're the best books. It's just some that were most influential. And maybe if I read them again now, I wouldn't get the same out of them. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some books like that on my most influential list. Anyway, take it away.
So I'll start at the beginning.
The Bible.
Let's not go there. The first book that highly influenced me, definitely when I was younger, I think I first read it maybe when I'm thinking like 10, maybe. What would I have been? That's like 5th grade. Yeah, that feels about right. So it's a pretty obvious one and common, I think, now it's The Lord of the Rings. I think the reason is that I really identified with the characters. It's kind of like the classic hero story. Somehow, me as a kind of timid, shy child, I really identified with like the hobbits, the Frodo and Sam, being like scared to leave their hometown and go off on this humongous quest. And I think that affected how I can see like that influence on later journeys in my life that I just wanted to do, but I knew they were really hard, but like it just was something you just have to do and make sure you just be careful, but also take the chance at the same time, I guess.
That's actually really sweet. I didn't expect that. I got, for each of my books, I got a few quotes. Oh, that's a really good idea.
And I meant to tell you that, but I forgot.
Okay, I wish you had.
I totally, yeah.
No, that's fine. Tell me what's your...
the obvious quote that is related to what I was talking about, what is, I think it's it's Bilbo talking to Frodo. Yeah, early on in the book. And he says, "It's a dangerous business, Frodo, going out your door. You step onto the road, and if you don't keep your feet, there's no knowing where you might be swept off to."
Cool.
Okay, I'll do one more. Frodo says, "I wish none of this had happened." And Gandalf says, "So do all who live to see such times. That is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us."
Yeah.
It's nice to remember at times.
Yeah. I guess it's a classic for a reason.
It's a classic. And I think it's just a great story.
Yeah.
And I think especially the first book, The Fellowship of the Ring. Just the whole beginning of them leaving is, I think, just the best part of it. And figuring out what they have to do and what lies ahead in the future. And,
Does it feel nostalgic when you think about that part?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Should I go?
Yes, you should.
Okay. I have not ordered these in any way, so it's not like the first one is the best. In fact, this one is why I said earlier that it might not necessarily be a book that, because I don't remember it, but I will say Freakonomics, because I read it like when I was 18ish, and it just made me pay attention more to statistics and exploring, just thinking in terms of numbers and solving problems that way. I don't know if it holds up, if it's necessarily deep or something today. I know that I enjoyed a few of their podcast episodes because they went on to do some podcasts.
Yeah, I also listened to some of their podcasts.
It was quite nice.
But I don't think I'm not sure if I ever read the book.
I think it's might be like way too trivial for you. But to me, it was kind of like statistics for beginners, maybe, sort of like that. But not just like, I knew statistics, but it was more like how it becomes applicable to life and problem solving and things like that. And I would say it affected on how I approach learning and solving problems myself. So I don't know if I would recommend it today, but if somebody is just learning about these things, then I might, because that's how I got into.
About when did you read that?
I think I was 17. I was 17.
It's probably a good time to read that book.
I think
At least it sounds like
so. I think so. Like, I was old enough to understand it, but also young enough to just be lost in looking for answers and like, who do I listen to in politics, in general life guidance, and just, it's not like it's a political book, it's not like it's a philosophical book necessarily, but it's just an intro to just some guys who looked at some numbers and found some interesting things. Wanna go?
Yeah, I think my next one is, we had some overlap here. And this is my kind of like group of three, which is Fooled by Randomness, The Black Swan, and Anti-Fragile. All by Nassim Taleb.
Yeah.
And I read those, must have been 2006 or 7. I think I read first The Black Swan right when it came out, and then I went back and read Fooled by Randomness, and then Anti-Fragile. And it really got me much even more interested in statistics, because he's, really big on explaining what statistics can do and what they can't do.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes people get annoyed at the way he writes, but I kind of found it
They do?
amusing. Yeah, a lot of people think he's just totally arrogant and annoying.
I see.
But I kind of liked it.
As far as I know, he's like very highly regarded.
Mostly, yeah.
Okay.
But there's I guess, some smaller group that think he's, I don't know, just arrogant, and
he is,
because he's very opinionated.
Yeah, he is
for sure.
Yeah,
and he'll tell people, like, he hates economists generally.
Yeah,
and will tell people that they're useless charlatans, basically.
Yeah.
But I found a lot of the ideas really interesting, and things that I wouldn't have thought of, but just once you learn about it, you're like, this makes total sense.
Yeah.
Like the whole idea of a black swan, it seems like such a simple idea, but nobody had expressed it like that.
Yeah.
Same with Anti-Fragile. Like that idea was around, and I'm not sure if you needed a whole book to explain that. But it was just, I think that was the of the three, that was my less favorite one. I think Fooled by Randomness and Black Swan were my two preferred of the three.
Do you have a quote?
Of course I do. Two quick ones from the Black Swan. Intelligence consists of ignoring things that are irrelevant. I think that's a very important idea, especially in the current world.
Right.
And very difficult to figure out what is irrelevant, what doesn't matter.
Right.
And then education makes the wise slightly wiser, but it makes the fool vastly more dangerous.
Yeah, that's
I like
a good
that
one.
Fooled by Randomness. Okay, yeah. No matter how sophisticated our choices, how good we are at dominating the odds, randomness will have the last word. I think that was the whole point of the book. Like,
right, yeah.
So much that we think is like due to somebody's skill and hard work. Yeah. You didn't see the guy next to him who was working just as hard and was just as skillful, but didn't get some stupid turn of luck.
Yeah, I remember from Fooled of Randomness the example he gives with the great generals that we remember, like Alexander the Great or whoever. And it's like history had many people who were just as brave and just as smart and just as calculated, but just randomness, end of their career.
Yeah.
Do you have more quotes?
This was a good quote that doesn't really have to do with, I guess it does have to do with randomness a little. The quote is, "A mistake is not something to be determined after the fact, but in light of the information available until that point." And I find that many people forget that. They like make a decision and then something bad happens after that, and they're like, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
But like, you can't judge it on the future. You have to judge your action on what information you had at that point. Yeah. So I like that one.
I had also written down Fooled by Randomness for everything that you just said. But since you kind of captured, I don't think I have anything to add that you didn't say, but which is But I have a good transition to the next one, Thinking Fast and Slow. And several chapters have mentioned Taleb's work. It's quite similar, but more psychology based. And have you read it?
No, I always meant to, but then like at some point I just forgot about it.
Okay. I'm like, I haven't finished it. I'm like 70 or 80% in. It's quite long. But I can already tell I've learned so much about where my own blind spots could be, and how he simplifies the two processes everyone has going on inside them.
Mm-hmm.
The sheer volume of decisions that we make, I don't even know if you can call them decisions because they happen involuntarily throughout our day, and how big of an effect they can have in actually important turning points in one's life. I'm just like starting to pay attention, and anytime I'm researching something, anytime I'm trying to write something, I always have it in mind and like try to be more aware of where my biases are and what I could be overlooking. And I'm really enjoying this book, and I could confidently recommend it.
And you're still reading it?
Yeah.
Now?
I'm like 70 or 80% in. But it's not like one, it has first it explains the premise, and then it has a lot of different experiments and different psychological phenomenon. And it's also very numbers based. So in that sense, I see it not that different than Fooled by Randomness. Like, it's very statistical and data oriented, but focused on psychology and different psychological experiments and how people behaved and how they said they would behave, etc.
So, like, what's the main idea?
The main idea is that we have two systems that process information in us, and one of them is basically instincts. He explains it better, but one of them is basically thinking fast, which is like instincts, like all your information that's stored in this fast kind of part of your brain. And the other one is the more analytical, where you take time and think and process something and come to a decision. And how everyone thinks that they are in charge of like their mind and body and driving this whole thing. But experiment after experiment in the book, he goes over, shows just how much of it just comes from the fast thinking. Like, just as an example, there's that one experiment where people were asked, like, there was a donation box somewhere, and behind the donation box there was a painting of this or that, and based on what the painting is, there's a big difference on how much people donate, and it's just not even something that most people notice.
Right.
And things like that.
So it's got two separate ways of, I don't know, reacting to the world. Is it that much of a like binary thing? Like, is there is it like a continuum between them, or is it just like one or the other, I guess?
Well, everyone will have the first thing, and then the book kind of guides you in how to apply the slow thinking to mitigate the effects of the fast thinking, and where the fast thinking could have fallen short, where the common blind spots are, and how you could instead make a decision based on either data or some study or some some knowledge based on some kind of experience, that rather than your just instinct.
And it argues that that is better.
Not always. So quite often you need to rely on, maybe not rely on, but it's obviously necessary. And
I would imagine in some cases it's better to go by your instinct.
Sure.
And, like, make a list of like all the data you have and analyze
if a lion's chasing you down in the savannah.
Right. Yeah. like last week. No. Yeah, I know him and Taleb were colleagues. They did some work together, and I remember Taleb speaking very highly of Kahneman.
Oh, cool.
My next one will be a quick one because I don't have any quotes.
Oh no.
And I'm sorry, I couldn't find quotes easily because I think it's more like it's closer to a textbook.
Okay.
But it's not actually a textbook, but it's closer to one. It's written by a professor, and it's two books, but the first book I think I enjoyed much more. The first one is Ideas, A History of Thought and Invention, from Fire to Freud. Okay. And the next book is kind of a continuation of where that left off, just called The Modern Mind, An Intellectual History of the 20th Century, both by Peter Watson. And especially the first book I much enjoyed because, all the history books are like, this general fought against this army and this guy won, and then tons of people died, and then they formed a new country, blah, blah, blah. But this book went through how people thought and what ideas would influence, their actions and how they managed life and politics. And it was just, the focus wasn't on war and conquering and just who did what. It was how people were thinking at that time. And I had never read any other book like that, like history book like that. And I really enjoyed it because you get to see how cultural norms and ideas and everything just evolves through time, and it's so not static. And like you have this idea, you're in this culture now, and you feel like it's never going to change, but like it's going to be totally different in 50 years. And I don't know, it was really interesting to go through that.
Is it actually from the invention of fire to Freud?
Yeah, it's literally when humans started, like back to cavemen, up to 19th century.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, it's cool.
That does sound very interesting.
It was interesting.
Would you recommend it?
Yes. Yeah.
Does sound like something I would enjoy.
The Modern Mind, the newer, I guess, version. Mm-hmm. I guess because those ideas we are much more aware of. It was less like wow, that's so cool. It was less that sort of thing. It was just, it was interesting, but I didn't find it as.
So I should at least start the first one.
Yeah, start with Ideas, A History of Thought and Invention. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a thick book. It's like, I don't know, it's like maybe 600 pages or something, I think. I can't remember. I remember it being big. Maybe it wasn't that big, but that's my memory of it.
852 pages.
Okay, I do remember. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And these were, I remember it was big pages, like text, like almost textbook size pages. So, yeah. It got long at some points. I remember it got long and a bit too detailed, but especially
that's fine,
up to,
I think,
like ancient times was really interesting. That was very, very cool.
Should I go?
Yes.
I guess I will go for Catcher in the Rye. I think it might be the first novel that I managed to finish. Because for some reason, when it comes to media, like I think I can enjoy a lot of different artistic ventures, but when it came to books, I was so much more fascinated by fact books, nonfiction.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I would start, like, I think I got Harry Potter when it first came out. I got it as a birthday gift. And I know I'll be crucified for saying this, but I think I made it halfway through, which was like more than... And I was like the right age. I was, I don't know, a kid.
Well, I have not read Harry Potter except like a paragraph.
Yeah.
And I don't get it.
Okay.
I know like everybody says I'm biased, but I'm like, this is just no good compared to Lord of the Rings.
That can't be.
I know I shouldn't compare, but yeah. I never could. I don't know. I could see it if you're a young, like a child.
Yeah. Which
liking Harry Potter, but when it came out, I was older.
Yeah.
And I just never could get into it. It just seemed too childish.
Yeah. Yeah, but let's not go into Harry, because I could go on about what I didn't like about it, because anyway, Catcher in the Rye was the first fiction that, and it's not very long, I guess that had something to do with it, but I was like really enjoying it, and I was sad when it ended, and that's always like a good sign. And so yeah, it stuck with me, and I kept a copy. I guess, look, in retrospect, now that I'm talking about it, I could kind of relate it to it, because like I was kicked out of school and for not conforming, and so I can see why. Like, and this is the reason that I wouldn't recommend it today. I think if I read it today, I might be like, yeah, this is dumb. I'm not sure, because I haven't read it since back then.
Yeah.
But it is the first fiction thing that made me read more fiction things, I would say, afterwards. So in that sense, I would say it was influential. And just like, I guess it did affect me in inspiring me to be more true to myself, and maybe it also influenced me in a negative way, and like be a bit more antisocial, and which is not great. So another reason why I probably wouldn't recommend it, but influential it was.
I have also read it, and the only thing I remember from it is just not liking it and thinking it was boring and like stupid. I don't know. I don't know. It just didn't it didn't catch me. But I had some friends who loved it and thought it was a wonderful book, but I don't know. I thought he was annoying.
Yeah, a lot of people find him super entitled and annoying.
Yeah.
I might find him annoying today if I read the book. I think
Yeah.
that's the reason why I hesitate recommending it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember it that well, really.
You want to go next?
Yeah, this one makes sense, I think. So,
as opposed to,
I don't know. It's a bit like, I don't know what I mean. Like, it's not. It doesn't go in line with the other books, I think. But the book is The Way of Zen by Alan Watts, and this was a kind of introduction to the Zen way of thinking, but it was written back in the 60s. So it's a bit dated, let's say.
Yeah.
But I guess I think it was one of those books that I just randomly picked up. I don't remember why I even picked it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember. But it was just an introduction to the Zen, the Taoist way of thinking, which is very different from our, usual Western ideas. And I just found it very interesting in trying to understand what he was talking about. And it kind of led me down a path of at least learning more about the Eastern religions and trying to understand some of the ideas in them. There's a lot of important and useful lessons in Zen, especially. A lot of the religions, of course, but I don't know. I just found it difficult, but just difficult and different because it's just not the way that we think. Like, I got a couple quotes, but like in our Western religion, like everybody tells you this is what God is. Like he's love, he's this, he does this stuff for you. You're supposed to follow these rules and then you'll have a good life and good afterlife. Like, so obviously there's a lot of argument about what exactly you're supposed to do and what, but like if you believe one religion, like, what you're supposed to do. But, and yeah, I'll read this quote. It's a bit long, but it captures this idea that I want to express. Here's the quote. Zen Buddhism is a way and a view of life which does not belong to any of the formal categories of modern Western thought. It is not religion or philosophy. It is not a psychology or a type of science. It is an example of what is known in India and China as a way of liberation, and is similar in this respect to Taoism, Vedanta, and yoga. As will soon be obvious, a way of liberation can have no positive definition. It has to be suggested by saying what it is not, somewhat as a sculptor reveals an image by the act of removing pieces of stone from a block. And it's like, how am I supposed to understand what it is if you don't tell me what it is? But I love like that strange puzzle. Like, I just really...
I want to ask if you recommend it, but before I ask that, have you read Wherever You Go, There You Are?
I know I've heard of it. I don't think I've read it, but it...
Okay.
Wait, is that by Alan Watts also?
No, it's John Kabat-Zinn.
Okay. It sounds like something he would say.
It reminded me your description a bit because I don't want to misspeak. if I recall correctly, he was a doctor who got into meditation and experimented and then just wrote this book. And I'm currently reading it as well, so I'm not like all the way through. But it's also, I like how he frames meditation as a way of not just something that you do, but also a way of living and thinking and being. So I can see it becoming influential. So anyway, that just reminded me of it. Do you recommend The Way of Zen?
I that's difficult because it is a dated book, and it's probably not the most accurate introduction in terms of, because things have been, I don't know. This was like in the real beginning of when Zen and the Eastern religions were becoming popular in America and Europe. And it was I think it was one of the first main books that kind of helped spread those ideas. So, yeah. And there's still a lot of like really interesting stuff in it. So, and it's an easy, quick read actually. So, yeah, I would recommend it. Just with those caveats.
Sure.
If it charms you, seek out some more books. But yeah, I would recommend it.
I just saw that I had another one on there that
Yeah.
My last recommendation is Man's Search for Meaning, which is, do you know it?
I actually have it. I just haven't read it yet.
Yeah, I mean, I come from an impoverished background. And do you think that you're like...
I don't know why I'm laughing at that. Sorry.
Because you're just cruel. My middle class.
All right.
But yeah, people go through a rough time. It's ups and downs, and then you think you have it rough, and then it's always it's basically a book that shows that it can get worse and worse and worse, and the absolute worst that it's ever gotten. It's an example for somebody who's been through the absolute worst things that we have imagined as human beings, or one of them.
Yeah.
And he's still maintained this spirit of like humor and survival and perseverance. So I think it's definitely, I would say, you know what it's...
I know the premise.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I don't think I have anything more to add other than it's a good read.
Hopefully I'll pick it up, actually. Yeah. Huh. When did you read it?
Maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I would say.
Recent.
I always say 2-3 years, but then it turns out it was like pre-COVID recently, and then that was like 6 years ago. So I'm not sure. I think it was pre-COVID. So let's say 5 years just to average it out. But yeah, relatively recently in my life that I read it.
It's probably a good book to read before COVID.
I didn't mind COVID, so.
I did.
Yeah, I know. I remember.
Okay, I got one more. My last most influential book is The Unbearable Lightness of Being by Milan Kundera.
I've not heard of this.
No?
I don't think so.
He's a Czech author. in Czech Republic.
This rings a bell. Maybe, but it's possible you have told me about it.
Maybe. I also, well, so it's a novel. It's set in Prague, mostly in Prague during the late 60s. So they're under communism, and it was, a lot of protests there at the time, and it just followed a guy and a girl and another woman and kind of a love story. But there was a whole lot of philosophy in it, and just really, there's so many interesting and thoughtful quotes in it that they're like expressions of ideas I've had, but like somehow it's exactly how I wanted to show it and say it, but like I could never get it out.
Mm-hmm.
And to have somebody else like put it in words, like, yes, that's what I wanted. That's what I meant by this idea or something like that.
That's always a good sign for a book.
Yeah. And I, of course, I read it when I was living in the Czech Republic.
Oh, okay.
So I could like walk down. It's kind of a historical novel, of course.
Okay, so you had like a very close experience.
Yeah, so I could walk down the same streets and be in the same like square that they're telling about protests and things, and
cool.
That was pretty cool. But even without that, I think it was really a wonderful book. Sometimes it's a bit heavy on the strange philosophy, but like it's a really good novel anyway. I think you would like it, actually.
Okay.
I think you would get.
Is that a recommendation?
It is a recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And here's a quote that is from the book that is one of those ideas that I've had in like some, in some way before, but like it was expressed here. And so it's one of the characters in the book is at the time she's in Paris watching her Parisian friends like going out to protest against the communist regime in the Czech Republic and things like that. And the quote is, she's talking about her French friends. She says, she thought, she would have liked to tell them that behind communism, fascism, behind all occupations and invasions lurks a more basic, pervasive evil, and that the image of that evil was a parade of people marching by with raised fists and shouting identical syllables in unison. And I just think, like, I've had that thought so many times when I've looked at, like, people, like, in protests, like, whatever it is, like, even if it's, like, a good, protest, you're just, I don't know. There's something, like, scary at the same time about it.
Yeah, I can see that.
How it can so easily be, you think you're on the right side, but then
right
before you know it, you become just a murderer on the other side,
Yeah, I think this was a quick summary of some good books, but like if we wanted to, we could discuss the philosophy behind each one for at least an episode, and it would be still quite interesting.
Yeah, but then I'd have to go back and read it.
Right.
All of them. So, I don't know.
Could be something we could do sometimes, like one of them.
Yeah, maybe.
It's one at a time.
All right, you take the one that the ideas from Fire to Freud. It's like 800 pages long. You can have that one.